Hello, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Epoch Network, where I like to discuss politics, economics, funny stuff, really anything that you guys want to discuss. Um, Today, I want to talk about two major things that have to do with socialism and arguments people often make against it, or why as to why it's a bad idea or a bad economic philosophy. Um, and I'm not going to get into socialism versus democratic socialism versus communism. I can make another video about that if that's something that you guys are interested in. But just make sure you like the videos, subscribe, and leave a comment. And I'll try to do videos on specific stuff that you guys comment on. Now, the two main arguments here that I want to discuss are, or that you often hear as far as like retorts to socialism or why socialism is a bad idea, are why should I pay for other people's stuff? That's a big one. A lot of people argue I have my own family. I'm trying to take care of my own family. I work hard to earn the money that I have. Why should my money go to somebody else who isn't working as hard as I am or isn't working at all? And another one, which I mean, it's a valid point if you're, but I think there's more that I think you need to go a little deeper into that thought process to really discover what's going on. And another one is why should a business that is taking all the risk, covering the overhead, covering all the costs, and employing people have to pay their employees more than what they're paying them for what that employee is producing um, than what they already are paying them. Why should they get more? In this case generally socialists are referring to just paying them a living wage or above substandard pay. So and especially when there's the argument is that the workers don't take the same risks that the employers take as far as with the loans, with starting a business, running a business, and that type of thing. So those are the two main points I want to discuss, and it's kind of interesting. The first argument essentially is why should I pay for other people's stuff, right? Nobody wants to get taxed and then pay for somebody else, especially if like you have your own family that you're looking after, or you just don't want to give your money away. I get it. I get that concept. I get where y'all are coming from. What socialism would argue for that is, well, there's a few arguments against that. One is if I'm, let's say, going to get taxed an extra dollar so that a homeless person or a family can get a meal, personally, and I think most people, wouldn't mind giving up that dollar to feed somebody else. So really that's on a micro scale. People seem to have more of a problem with it when we go to a macro scale, when you get taxed higher percentages of your wages to go toward social programs that perhaps you as an individual are not benefiting from, and you don't see the benefit to other people who are using these services like universal health care or Social Security, Medicare, whatever the case is, whatever socialist program our taxation is going toward. If you're not using those products, you're probably not seeing the benefit of them. I think that's a big issue. There's a disconnect between the people being taxed to provide for these products and the people actually receiving the products, where essentially if you don't see the outcome of that taxation, you're like, well, I don't want to contribute. I don't want to be a part of that, just because you don't see the change necessarily that you're making. Another thing to consider here, and this idea actually came from a woman on an app that I was looking at, but it was a really interesting idea. I think she really hit the nail on the head, and that is they don't want to subsidize other people. That's like a big thing. Got it. But think about this. Let's take a big corporation. Let's take Amazon. This is the example that she used. Okay, and this is how she described it. Amazon's a huge corporation, billions of dollars of business. Well, I'm sorry, they're worth billions of dollars. They probably do millions of dollars worth of business annually, maybe billions. I'm not sure, but you can Google that. But that's not the point. The point is they're a huge business, and they make their money from us, the people, the proletariat, the consumer, however you want to call it, purchasing stuff off their website, and then it gets delivered to us. So it is safe to say, I think, that Amazon, the corporation, in their daily business practice is going to deliver tons of packages, and they're going to use the roads to deliver those packages, right, to conduct their business. Now, the roads they're using were paid for through taxation, right? That's part of the infrastructure that some of our taxes go toward, is roads, repairing roads, upkeep, stuff like that. So that corporation, if you're, I mean, it makes logical sense to me, maybe not to others, but that corporation, because they're getting more use out of the infrastructure, they should also be contributing more towards the upkeep, maintenance of that infrastructure, and developing new infrastructure than your average citizen who uses it maybe to go to work and back once a day, maybe goes to the mall on the weekends. That corporation is getting way more use out of this infrastructure than any individual. Now, how much of our tax collection does that corporation contribute? None or very little. I mean, these big corporations through the tax system, I mean, it's not like they're really doing something illegal. The tax system is built so they can do this, but through donations or different write-offs or loopholes, whatever you want to call them, they hire accountants to find it for them, to find these for them. They're not going to pay taxes. And so the taxes still have to be paid, right? Let's just follow me on this logic here. The taxes still have to be paid. The middle class is the most heavily taxed class. And Amazon and these big corporations are not paying these taxes. Who you are subsidizing? We, the proletariat, we are subsidizing. We're not subsidizing the poor. We're subsidizing the wealthy. We're subsidizing these big corporations using the infrastructure that we pay for, that are not contributing their fair share or any share in some cases. We are subsidizing them. So if your big argument against socialism or social programs or taxation, whatever the case may be, is that you don't want to subsidize another family, another person, whatever, take a look at what's going on, because you are subsidizing other people. You're subsidizing these corporations that are not paying any taxes. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into where your money's going, why people think that these big corps should be paying taxes, not just their fair share, but should be paying higher in higher brackets, should be paying higher percentages. Like I think Elizabeth Warren said something about once you hit your $1,000,001, then you get taxed 90%. Well, at that level, I mean, it's pretty high. I don't know any billionaires. I think probably a lot of us don't know any billionaires. I don't understand why there's such a backlash against Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren's tax programs, taxing these ultra rich people. It seems like everybody's up in arms about it. On the conservative right, everybody's up in arms about it. I don't even think it affects them. I don't think it affects the, Fox News hosts and whoever else is really fighting against this. I think a lot of the middle class has been disillusioned almost that they're part of this wealthy elite. We are not part of this wealthy elite. None of us who are watching this video probably know any of these wealthy elite. But let me just speak for myself. I don't know any billionaires. I've known one millionaire in my life, and that was cool. But I think the people are getting really upset over taxes going up. They think it's going to impact them, but it's not. As far as I can tell, the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren's plans are to tax the ultra wealthy, to fund social programs, to fund Medicare for all and different programs like that. But anyway, that's beyond the point. The point is, when it comes to taxation, when it comes to subsidization, take a closer look. Take a closer look at what your taxes are going towards. They are going towards, in some cases, funding the infrastructure for the wealthy, for the elite, who are then using that infrastructure to make billions and billions more, none of which they're paying taxes on, or very little, if any at all. Now, another point is why businesses. This is the other point of the argument, is why businesses should pay their workers more. They're taking all the risk. They're covering the overhead. They're providing jobs. Like that should be some kind of get out of jail free card for these corporations, that they're creating jobs. it's great that they're creating jobs, but they're also getting very wealthy from selling the products and services that the workers are creating for, in some cases, exorbitant costs. I don't want to get into the whole EpiPen thing, but um, I mean, it's not criminal, but it seems sort of like an abuse of the system, and that's kind of where Marxists and socialists step in on workers' rights and paying livable wages and stuff like that. So the idea that socialism has is right now we live in a capitalist economy, which has worked pretty well for some time. And the Marxist or socialist argument against this is as follows. So in a capitalist economy, the business, will hire a certain amount of workers to produce a product or deliver a service. That worker will add value to my raw materials, okay, because they will create something new with the raw materials, or they will provide said service. And then there's a split of the money that's made from the product. So the worker creates what's called a surplus, okay? Let me give you an example just so I can maybe better outline this. And this is a really good example from economics professor Richard Wolff. I actually have, let's see if I can pull it up. So this is the middle thumbtack is the video on capitalism that he did that kind of breaks this down. And then here's the link on the Word doc. And I'll try to put the link in the description as well. But he gave the example that, so let's say a business has, they make furniture, and they have the wood, the nails, the screws, all the raw materials required to make a table. And now the worker comes in, the worker builds this beautiful table, and let's say that the total materials cost was $10. Okay, I'm just giving you some round numbers here. And the worker did 2 hours of labor at $8 an hour. So that's $26 total. That's gone into this table. And now the table gets sold at a retail store for $100. So from that $100, the company is going to take, the business is going to, the business or whoever the business is going to take, let's say $70 and use some of the money, pay the $16 to the worker who put the time into making this. They're going to pay them a minimum wage, let's say $16. Now on their $10 investment and for the raw materials and the $16 that they're paying the worker, for that investment they're taking back $70. Okay, or let's say $74. Okay, now that's going to cover their overhead costs. That covers the materials they use, and they're making a tremendous profit off of that worker's labor. Okay, so the socialist argument is that yes, the business takes a risk when they start the business, when they hire the workers, covering the overhead, paying all the bills. And the worker does not. The worker just adds the value through their labor. But when it comes time to split the excess, the surplus that's created from the worker, that split is not just unequal. It's disproportionately going towards the business. Okay, the business is getting disproportionately a large amount of the surplus of the profit made from that product. And that's what the argument is against, or one of the arguments rather, against capitalism that Professor Richard Wolff makes. And it's a common argument against capitalism. I think Karl Marx references it in some of his works. So, and essentially they say that's why capitalism doesn't work, is because it creates an upper class where the businesses are, the wealthy elite, and they're getting all the profit, or they're getting disproportionately the profit, and the worker is essentially, well, in their opinion, or it's their position that the worker is being exploited for their labor, and they're getting paid disproportionately less than what they should be making. So the socialist answer to this is, or one of the socialist answers is co-ops, where essentially it's a business where the workers get to decide what to do with the surplus that they create, or some of the surplus that they create. They have more of a say in what happens with that surplus. So the the business takes the money, the management takes a portion of the money, and the workers say, hey, with this excess, with this surplus, we want to give all the employees a raise, or we want to build better living conditions, or we want to expand and get more employees in here because we can produce more. Whatever the case is, the workers get a say in what happens to the surplus. It doesn't just go straight to the top, to the CEOs writing these fat checks for bonuses and whatnot. And there have been several co-ops. I can't reference you their names off the top of my head, but there have been several successful co-ops that are working just fine. Another great thing about co-ops is that a lot of them tend to have a rule where the management, or the kind of the board of directors, whatever you want to call them in a co-op, will decide on a range of pay where the top earner or the top paid employee can only make, let's say, 10, 15, 20% more than their lowest paid employee. And that kind of helps keep everybody honest. It keeps everybody, it keeps the people making that lower bracket of money from feeling like they're being used or abused, or that they're on the bottom rung, so to speak, of the ladder. So that's an answer. That's an answer that socialists have come up with for something not capitalism, right? And I think if it works, it's a great idea. Yeah, you're not going to get, you might still get these multi-billion-dollar corporations, but it's not going to be, or co-ops, let's call them co-ops, but it's not going to be the same where the CEOs and CFOs and the board is getting millions of dollars, writing $1 million checks, and then you have your people producing the labor and creating the surplus making minimum wage. So I hope these ideas just kind of give you some perspective that maybe you didn't have before. I'm still also trying to understand everything about socialism. I don't pretend to. I'm not a professor. I don't have a doctorate or anything in economics, but these are some socialist ideas that I think have some value. I think it's good to consider. And certainly if you can't see that there's some inequality with our system of capitalism as it is right now, as far as wages and just wealth inequality in general, then you should really take a look at some statistics, because they're out there from many different sources, and they'll tell you that the gap is growing wider. It's, I think, the widest it's ever been. And I mean, let's even go back for an example. Let's go back in time to 1950s, when the wealthy were being taxed really heavily. Coming out of World War II, it was supposedly the golden age of capitalism there, or let's not say capitalism, the golden age of the U.S. A family could have just the husband go out, or just a single, let's just say just a single person in the family, a single earner going out and making money, and they could support their whole family. They could pay their mortgage, they could pay all their bills, have food on the table, and that was just with one person working. Now we have, I don't know of any families that it just has one person working. Usually both the parents or the adults in a household go and work, sometimes multiple jobs to make ends meet. To keep up with inflation and to keep up with higher costs. A lot of people are struggling just to pay their school bills from going to college. College loans are just tremendous now. I'm not going to get into that, but there's a reason why that is as well, and you can research it on your own, or leave a comment if you want me to talk about it on another video, but it's really gotten out of hand. So I think as the wealthiest country in the world, the U.S. can afford to make some changes. We can afford to do some things different to make it a little better for the middle class. Definitely make it. We should not have a poverty zone, period. I mean, and I don't want to get into why there's conditions that create a below poverty line of people that are below poverty line, but there are certainly conditions that are almost set up to create that. So anyway, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I think capitalism has done some great things for this country. I think there's some really good aspects of capitalism in that it creates a lot of drive in businesses and in employees to do better, to compete, to make better products. And that competition will also oftentimes create lower costs for different products. But when you get into some super big corporations, there is no competition. I mean, I don't, I don't want to say it's a monopoly, but it's hard to compete. It's hard for small businesses, to get into the sphere of these big businesses and compete. They just usually just get bought out because they can't. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want to hear about anything else, politics, economics, whatnot. I would be more than happy to do videos on that. I also want to have some of my different friends and people I work with and stuff like that come on and do videos with me to kind of get their opinion, and maybe we can have some discourse. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and please leave any comments on what you guys want to watch. All right, thank you very much.